The Winter Garden Cafe glowed with soft lights and holiday decorations on that December evening. Snow drifted past the windows, creating a scene that would have been romantic if Christopher Blake weren't so thoroughly done with romance. At 36, CEO of Blake Industries worth just over $1 billion, Christopher had endured exactly 23 failed blind dates arranged by well-meaning friends and family. Each woman had been interested in his portfolio, not his personality. His last name, not his laugh lines. His bank account, not his character. This would be number 24, and his last. After tonight, he was officially retiring from dating and accepting a future of solitary success. His assistant had set this one up, insisting it was different. Christopher had heard that before. But Sarah had been with him for 8 years, knew him better than most people, and had promised this wasn't about money. "She doesn't even know your last name," Sarah had said. "Just your first name and that you work in business. That's it. Give her one chance. If it doesn't work, I'll never meddle again." So here Christopher sat at a corner table, wearing his best charcoal suit, ready for another evening of superficial conversation and thinly veiled gold digging. The door opened, letting in a swirl of snow and cold air. A young woman entered, late 20s, with blonde hair in soft waves and wearing a simple cream-colored dress under a practical winter coat. She looked nervous, uncertain, like she'd rather be anywhere else. Behind her, holding her hand, was a little girl. Maybe 4 years old, platinum blonde hair, wearing a pink coat and clutching a teddy bear. The woman said something to the hostess, who gestured toward Christopher's table. Christopher's first thought was that there'd been a mistake. His second thought was that this was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen, not because she was flawless, but because she looked real, tired but genuine, nervous but determined. His third thought was, she brought her daughter to a blind date? The woman approached his table, the little girl clinging to her side. "Christopher?" she asked hesitantly. "That's me," he replied, standing. "And you must be Elena." "I am." She took a breath. "And this is Ava. I'm so sorry. My babysitter canceled at the last minute, and I couldn't reach you to reschedule, and I know this is completely inappropriate for a first date, but I thought maybe we could still just talk for a few minutes. Then I'll go. I understand if you want to leave." Christopher looked at this woman, at her obvious embarrassment and determination, at the little girl peeking out from behind her mother's legs, studying him with solemn blue eyes. "Don't apologize," Christopher said. "I love kids." "Hi, Ava. I'm Christopher." Ava whispered something to her mother. "She wants to know if you like teddy bears," Elena translated, a small smile touching her lips. "I do," Christopher said seriously. "What's your teddy bear's name?" "Mr. Snuggles," Ava said shyly. "That's an excellent name," Christopher replied. He gestured to the seats. "Please sit down. Both of you." Elena hesitated, then helped Ava into a chair before sitting herself. Christopher noticed how carefully she moved, how her coat was clean but worn, how she glanced at the menu prices with barely concealed concern. "Thank you for not running away," Elena said. "Most men would have." "Most men are idiots," Christopher replied. "Can I order something for Ava? Hot chocolate? Cookies?" "Can I, Mommy?" Ava asked, her eyes lighting up. Elena looked torn between pride and practicality. Christopher saw the moment she chose her daughter's happiness over her own embarrassment. "That would be very kind," Elena said quietly. "Thank you." Christopher ordered hot chocolate and cookies for Ava, coffee for himself and Elena. When the waitress left, an awkward silence fell. "So," Christopher said, "tell me about yourself. Sarah mentioned you work in education?" Elena nodded. "I'm a second-grade teacher at Lincoln Elementary. It doesn't pay much, but I love it. The kids are wonderful. Challenging sometimes, but wonderful." "And Ava? Is she in second grade, too?" Elena smiled, relaxing slightly. "She's in pre-K." "Different school." "She's smart as a whip, though. Already reading above her level. I can read Goodnight Moon all by myself," Ava announced proudly. "That's impressive," Christopher said, and meant it. "What else can you do?" Ava launched into a detailed explanation of her coloring skills, her ability to count to 100, and how she could tie her shoes mostly by myself. Christopher listened attentively, asking questions. treating her words as if they were the most important thing he'd heard all day. Elena watched this stranger engage with her daughter, and something in her chest loosened. Most men she'd dated since her divorce had tolerated Ava at best, resented her at worst. This man was actually interested. "Your turn," Elena said when Ava paused to drink her hot chocolate. "Tell us about you. What do you do?" Christopher had prepared for this question. He'd promised Sarah he'd be honest but not overwhelming. "I work in business," he said. "Company management, mostly. It's demanding but rewarding. Do you like it?" Elena asked. The question surprised Christopher. Most people asked about profits or prestige. Elena asked about enjoyment. "I used to," he admitted. "Lately it feels empty. Like I'm building something impressive but meaningless." "That's sad," Ava said seriously. "You should do something that makes you happy, like coloring or playing with puppies." Christopher laughed, a real laugh that felt rusty from disuse. "You're absolutely right, Ava. Those things do sound better than quarterly reports." "What would make your work meaningful?" Elena asked. "If you could change anything?" Christopher thought about it. "If I knew it was helping people, making their lives better in some tangible way. Not just making money for shareholders, but actually improving the world." Elena's eyes softened. "That's a good answer. Better than most people give." They talked for 2 hours. About teaching and the challenges of public education. About Ava's favorite books and her dream of having a pet rabbit. About Christopher's childhood, growing up wealthy but lonely. About Elena's divorce from a man who decided fatherhood wasn't for him and walked away when Ava was 6 months old. "I'm sorry," Christopher said when Elena mentioned her ex. "That must have been incredibly hard." "It was," Elena admitted, "but also freeing. I'd rather raise Ava alone with love than with someone who resented her existence. We're doing okay. It's tight financially and I'm tired a lot, but we're happy. Aren't we, sweetheart?" Ava, who'd been drawing on napkins Christopher had requested from the waitress, nodded. "We're a team. Mommy says teams stick together." "Your mommy is very wise," Christopher said. As the cafe prepared to close, Elena reluctantly gathered their things. "I should get Ava home. It's past her bedtime." She met Christopher's eyes. "Thank you for not making this weird. For being kind to Ava. Most men wouldn't have stayed." "Most men don't know what they're missing," Christopher replied. He knelt down to Ava's level. "It was very nice to meet you, Ava. Thank you for sharing your hot chocolate evening with me." "You're welcome," Ava said. Then impulsively, she hugged him. "You're nice. I hope you find work that makes you happy like puppies do." Christopher felt something crack in his chest. He hugged her back gently. "I'll work on that." Outside, Christopher walked them to Elena's car, an ancient sedan that had clearly seen better years. "Can I see you again?" he asked. "Both of you? Maybe something fun? The Children's Museum? The zoo?" Elena looked surprised. "You want to see me again? Even knowing I have a daughter?" "Especially knowing you have a daughter," Christopher said. "Elena, you're the first real person I've talked to in years. And Ava is delightful. I'd like to get to know you both better." "I have to warn you," Elena said. "I can't do fancy restaurants or expensive dates. I'm a single mom teacher. My budget is tight." "If that's a problem—" "It's not," Christopher interrupted gently. "I don't want fancy. I want real. And you two are the most real thing I've encountered in a very long time." They exchanged numbers. Christopher watched them drive away, Elena's ancient car sputtering slightly, and made a mental note to have his mechanic give it a safety inspection. Not in a flashy way, just to make sure they were safe. He called Sarah from his car. "So?" she asked immediately. "How did it go?" "She brought her daughter," Christopher said. "Oh no. I'm so sorry." Elena said her sitter was reliable. "Sarah," Christopher interrupted. "It was perfect. She's perfect. They're both perfect. Thank you. For the first time in years, I'm actually looking forward to a second date." Over the next 2 months, Christopher saw Elena and Ava regularly. Museums and parks, casual dinners and movie nights. He learned that Ava loved dinosaurs and hated broccoli. That Elena had student loan debt that kept her up at night. That they spent Christmas alone because Elena's family had disowned her for divorcing their church's youth pastor. He also learned that happiness wasn't found in boardrooms or bank accounts. It was found in a little girl's laughter when she successfully completed a puzzle, in Elena's smile when she talked about her student's progress, in the warmth of being wanted for who he was, not what he had. 3 months into dating, Christopher invited them to Sunday brunch at a nice restaurant. Elena wore her best dress, which Christopher recognized from their first date. Ava wore pink as always. "I need to tell you both something," Christopher said once they'd ordered. Elena tensed, clearly expecting bad news. "I haven't been entirely honest about my job," Christopher continued. "I don't just work in business. I own a company, a very large company, Blake Industries. I'm Christopher Blake." Elena's fork clattered to her plate. "The Christopher Blake? The billionaire?" "Yes," Christopher admitted. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I wanted you to know me as just Christopher first, not as a bank account or a corporation." Elena stared at him, processing. "You're a billionaire, and you've been eating pizza with us and going to free museum days." "Because those were the best dates of my life," Christopher said simply. "Elena, I've been on countless dates with women who wanted Christopher Blake, CEO. You wanted Christopher. Just Christopher. That's priceless. What's a billionaire?" Ava asked, confused. "It means Christopher has a lot of money, sweetie," Elena explained, still looking stunned. "Oh," Ava said. "Can you buy a rabbit then?" "Because Mommy says we can't afford one, but I really want one." Despite the tension, Christopher laughed. "I could definitely help with a rabbit." Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Christopher, I need to be honest too. I can't be with someone for their money. I won't. I've worked too hard to maintain my independence, to show Ava that we're strong on our own. If you think this changes things between us—" "It doesn't change anything," Christopher interrupted. "Except maybe it means I can help make your life a little easier without you having to struggle so hard. Not because you need rescuing, but because people who care about each other help each other." "I don't want to be your charity case," Elena said firmly. "You're not," Christopher replied. "You're the woman I'm falling in love with. The woman who brought her daughter to a blind date because her babysitter canceled and she didn't want to stand me up. The woman who teaches second graders for minimal pay because she believes in them. The woman raising an incredible daughter to be kind and curious and brave." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "You're falling in love with me?" "With both of you," Christopher admitted. "If that's okay?" Ava looked between them. "Does this mean Christopher can come to my birthday party?" "If he wants to," Elena said, smiling through tears. "I wouldn't miss it," Christopher promised. 6 months later, Christopher stood in the ballroom of Blake Industries headquarters. Not for a corporate event, but for the announcement of a new initiative, the Blake Education Foundation. Fully funded scholarships for children from single-parent households, teacher salary supplementation, free after-school programs. "This foundation exists because of one woman who taught me what really matters," Christopher told the gathered press. "Someone who showed me that success means nothing if you're not using it to lift others up. Someone who brought her daughter to our first date and changed my life forever." Elena stood at the back of the room with Ava, both dressed nicely for the occasion. Ava waved at Christopher and he waved back, his professional composure cracking into a genuine smile. After the announcement, they stood together looking at the foundation display. "You did this because of us?" Elena asked, still processing. "I did this because you reminded me why I went into business in the first place," Christopher said. "My mother was a single-parent teacher. She died when I was 12 because she couldn't afford proper health care while raising me alone. I built an empire in her memory, but I'd forgotten the lesson. You reminded me." He knelt down to Ava's level. "And you, Miss Ava, reminded me that happiness looks like puppies and coloring. So I'm restructuring my schedule to make time for both. With you and your mom, if you'll have me?" "Forever?" Ava asked seriously. "If you'll let me," Christopher replied, pulling out a small box. Inside were 2 rings, one for Elena and one, much smaller, for Ava. "Elena, will you marry me? Will you let me be part of your team? And Ava, will you let me be your dad? Not replacing anyone, but adding to your family?" Elena couldn't speak through her tears. Ava answered for them both, "Yes! And can we get that rabbit now?" They all laughed, and Christopher pulled them both into his arms. The lonely billionaire who'd given up on love. the struggling single mother who'd brought her daughter to a blind date, the little girl who'd stolen his heart by being authentically herself. Sometimes the last blind date is the first real beginning. Sometimes showing up imperfectly leads to perfect love. And sometimes, bringing your whole complicated life to a first date is exactly the right thing to do. If this story touched your heart, please like and share it with someone who believes in real love and real families. Subscribe for more stories about finding love by being authentic and brave. Comment below about a time when being yourself, complications and all, led to something beautiful. Or when someone loved you not despite your circumstances, but because of the whole package. Your story could give another single parent the courage to show up fully and honestly, to believe that the right person will love all of you.